So recently Call of Duty Mobile dropped, and it's pretty unanimous that that's probably had one of the worst game launches in the history of ever. I think it's only going to be second to XDefiant because unfortunately right now this game is so dead that it's so dead it's before launch. At least Call of Duty Mobile got to launch and then died. XDefiant is seemingly dead behind launch, and Tom Henderson here is a great leaguer, great journalist, just great all-around Twitter follow, online follow, whatever you want to say. But he wrote an article today saying behind XDefiant's toxic work culture, crunch, and years of delays. And this is honestly to response to Mark Cuban, who kind of like shunned him, saying no, that what he originally reported on, none of it's based on anything. So Tom Henderson said, okay, well, I'm gonna crack my investigative journalism knuckles and get right at it. And he says, following Insider Gaming's exclusive report this weekend, it took all but 12 minutes for the executive producer Mark Rubin and other disingenuous tweet from X to shoot down the rumors that XDefiant delays aren't related to chasing Call of Duty. What's ironic is this is supposed to be the Call of Duty killer, and it seemingly killed itself and had nothing to do with Call of Duty other than trying to chase the shadows of Call of Duty. Nevertheless, Rubin did not confirm that the game has yet again been delayed, but its latest delay was because of major technical issues related to the game's netcode, which is an issue that's been outlined since November of 2023. So this netcode issue has almost been a problem for dang near 6 months now. It's crazy that they can't get this thing fixed. As previously mentioned, XDefiant has missed dozens of internal milestones and deadlines these past couple years, and although Rubin's last comments on XDefiant missing its latest release date due to the netcode not being accurate, it's not a simple case of one and done issues that have plagued the game for years. As Insider Gaming has reported, XDefiant's shortcomings stem from several executives and directors on the project, They are internally referred to as the Boys Club, which we saw this with Bobby Kotick and the Activision suite. Sucks to see this. This is also happening in Ubisoft. At first, the Boys Club was given to a select few individuals who caused constant problems for the game's development, and the term was collectively agreed upon some members of the team to feel a sense of camaraderie. But a couple years later, the group drew a dozen or so both male and female individuals, as the term has evolved into something much more bitter in the studio. The group has caused some missed deadlines, crunch, and a toxic work environment, and multiple people leaving the project, said the source. Whilst there isn't an exact date on when the quote-unquote club evolved into something more sinister, several sources stated that the change became the most apparent from when the brand Tom Clancy was dropped publicly around the year 2022. Before the decision, the game was initiated to be it was intended to be released around the holiday of 2021 without any significant issues that plagued the game today. The change meant for more freedom for the project, allowing the quote-unquote Boys Club to make unnecessary changes, which has a domino effect on the progress of the game. Despite the warnings from the team, it's currently added over 2 years of the game's development. Eventually, things got so bad that XDefiant's toxic work culture, crunch, and internal problems became so prevalent that the knowledge of the quote-unquote Boys Club had spread into other studios in Ubisoft. So this plague became a cancer and started to spread, and started to become known throughout the whole Ubisoft studio, which is kind of crazy. The issue with the quote-unquote Boys Club isn't that the managers or directors telling developers what to do. I mean, after all, it is their job, but it's the lack of work ethic, unpleasant behavior, and the egos from these individuals that have created a really unhealthy place to work. One member has no design experience or people experience and has been given directional powers because of the personal friendship, said one source. And in the COD community, everyone is just kind of looking at Patty Akes, kind of like, wait, you're the one who always bitches about the Friendship League in the CDL? Do you have the friendship cheese in the corporate world? We can't say it's Patty Akes, but that's just whenever that one sentence, that one quote has come out of this article, and everyone's just kind of looking at Patty Akes like, hey, bro. Not saying that it is him, but man, if it is, that would be ironic. It means that the developers are left with responsibilities beyond their original job descriptions. Man, I know what that feels like. Told to do tedious work of overtime to complete tasks, and often struggle aside when suggestions don't align with the views of the higher up. There has been so many instances where people have cried and had mental breakdowns and stopped caring about their well-being because of the toxic environment fostered by the club. Quote unquote, the boys club is a closed group of protected individuals who think they are better than everyone else and do as they please without any repercussion, said one developer working on a project. And unfortunately, just in a corporate world and a business world, this happens when you have like the people who are higher up in the chain of command, the directors, the GMs, the CEOs, the CMOs, the EOs, all of those, and then you have the people who are actually working on the business, providing the service, and it just feels like there's this disconnect, and this othering starts to happen. And when the othering starts to happen internally within this business or internally within a team, this is exactly what happened. One member has a history of treating people extremely bad with HR reports, more so than I've ever seen, said another. Quote unquote, I frequently was told by the following blank management, what do you know? Have you never shipped a game before? If you want to make it to where I'm at, then you need to do the XYZ thing, said former developer who has since left Ubisoft altogether because of how they were treated. I've heard that it's pretty bad over there, but it's bad everywhere at Ubisoft, to be honest, said another developer working in another studio. Yikes. Okay, this part of the article is addressing the netcode. As of 2023, XDefiant's team has been facing a huge hurdle with the game's netcode, and we ain't talking the hurdle relay. As Mark Rubin had already outlined, the game had significant issues and needed fixing. Ironically, this has been a known issue for years, said people working on the project, and could have been avoided if the leadership had listened to the rest of the team, but since the suggestions didn't come from within their bubble, or would we say in their club, the advice was altogether ignored, that's so frustrating. Quote unquote, there's been countless occasions where different teams would advise the quote unquote boys club for good reason about making some different choices and decisions with the months and the years, with the notice to avoid the issues that are going to come down the road. They're like, hey, if we do this now, we know down the road this is going to be a problem. And when they were asked about the game's netcode, this is what the developer had to say about what the boys club would, or at least their response was, or their time during it, or interact. Insider Gaming understands that the game's netcode is still a significant issue for the project, and that the team has recently been struggling to reach the internal goal of 100 players per server participant, a goal desired to support the expected hundreds of thousands of players that will play the game at launch. Maybe if they launched it last year, now you might be lucky to get 100,000. It's one of the major reasons for the past week's closed beta test, which saw this testing of the netcode, social features, battle pass, and store. The store and the battle pass were tested due to coins not being allocated to players. During the weekend test, players who played the game and spoke to Insider Gaming said that the netcode still wasn't great. Hit registration was described as being terrible. That's not good for a shooter, or off by some sources. Hit registration should never be described as terrible or off when talking about an FPS. I think we can all agree. Let me know down in the comments below if that, to me, this is the biggest thing with an FPS, is hit registration. Movement, guns, sounds, that can all be fixed later on. But if the game doesn't come out right away, I hit somebody, the game registers it. With bullets not registering or going around corners, etc. However, 5 playtesters who spoke to the good news is that there weren't any major crashes. It's understood that the netcode issue originated from significant changes brought on by the boys club after the Tom Clancy name was dropped. The simple case was just dropping the name based on the fan feedback resulted in a frenzy to add new factions, maps, and other features that needed to be built from scratch. Internal feedback was ignored, and corners were cut by reusing assets, resulting in huge technical issues that could have been avoided. Mark Cuban has said he will update the game's status in the coming week, but Insider Game understands that the game is currently undergoing many internal playtests as possible. Now, here's the section about chasing Call of Duty. This is the part I really wanted to read. In our previous report, we reported that XDefiant's delays have stemmed from the never-ending pursuit of chasing COD, which has resulted in developers becoming increasingly frustrated with the project's lack of progress. I can promise you the player base shares that sentiment. This is an issue that has caused a recent delay, but the issue that has plagued the game for years in the subject of the quote boys club finds itself when brought up internally and after our past report, seemingly publicly too. While no question of that at first, while there's no question that a new first-person shooter should take inspiration from other popular titles in the market, sources who spoke with Insider Gaming said that it became eventually rather quickly that COD was the only title leadership was interested. Sources said that almost every very creative decision from the best part of the 2 years quickly ended with the same rhetorical question: what would Call of Duty do? I mean, I would even look at Call of Duty as the prime example for like a live service FPS or a live service shooter. I would look at like a Fortnite for something like that. But As Mark Rubin said in his responses to our original report, the game remains the same that if you played already, which is strive to make as fun as possible, we feel confident about this. Insider Gaming understands that this is true, that there haven't been any significant changes to the gaming since its public playtest, and almost all of the additional features have been delayed in order to implement the game's season because of the constraint on project pushback. This includes any form of true progression or challenges, including prestiging, weapon challenges, and other features that have been discussed, such as kill cams, kill streaks, a theater mode, a competitive mode, private matches, and more. Speaking on the quote-unquote boys club and its pursuit of COD, one source said, they will nitpick the future of their liking similar to COD and tell the design product teams to come back later once they make an appropriate change. Even once the design team makes those changes, the boys club will come up with something else and proceed will repeat again for months, all resulting in either a feature finally being implemented to the game or just cut entirely because it's being pushed back for too long. Another source said the constraints changing of the approval features and adding new features that don't really affect the game has pushed us back significantly, probably a year or so at this point. That's heartbreaking for any developer and anybody who wants to get their hands on this game. It could have been out a year ago. To be clear, chasing COD isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's one of the biggest first-person shooters of all time, so it makes sense, but when features are pushed back constantly or canceled entirely because they're not quote-unquote COD enough, it has a detrimental effect on those who are working on the project and the project itself. That's a weird way to word that. Some developers have even expressed immense frustration over XDefiant's seemingly positive, open transparency conversation, as it was said that these updates don't often align with what's actually going on, including upcoming features that haven't yet been internally discussed or problems that don't exist. But hey, at least something to mention is no SBMM gets chopped brownie points, right? So where is XDefiant now? As I've outlined in our previous report, XDefiant is not currently canceled. Following the insanely popular open test, Ubisoft has some expectations that the game could be a free-to-play hit that they've been looking for a number of years. The internal goal right now is to get this game out the door, but it's unclear how long it will take. However, I do have news on when we do have some. However, on this, I do have some news. Defiant, first and foremost, thank you. However, I do have some news on this. XDefiant did come out and give us a official release, ironically enough, soon after that Insider Gaming report by Tom Henderson came out. But it reads, first and foremost, thank you for your continued support for XDefiant. We are proud to have such a passionate community, and we thank you for your participation in the testing phases. This game has always been community first, with player feedback as a top priority. We're finishing preparations for a 12-hour server test that will be worldwide on PS5, Xbox Series X, S, and PC. The goal of this test is to trust test our servers, and this is where you come in because we need your help to do that. After this short test, we expect to be able to lock in a launch date and start sharing more exciting content about XDefiant in its future. Now with this, if I'm going to be honest, I have a funny feeling we're going to get this 12-hour test probably sometime around the end of May, beginning of June, and the game will probably come out around the middle end of July, when COD's interest is at an all-time low. Especially if they're trying to chase the shadows of COD, they're going to want to try to leap on that when the interest around COD and the excitement around COD is at an all-time low. But that is going to be all. I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like the video, share with a friend, keep them in the loop. If you guys want to play XDefiant when it launches, I would love to play XDefiant with every single person who watches this video, and I'll even send a friend request to everyone who freaking likes this video. Screw it, let's get 20,000 friend requests up in here with 20,000 likes. But with that said, I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.